Hey everybody, it's Bob Crossan, Senior Managing Editor for Water and Waste Digest, and throughout the month of July, we are highlighting our 2020 Young Pros. So today I have with me Jay Vanden Brink. He is COO of Aquaclara International. So Jay, thank you so much for being on the call with me today. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So I wanted to, you're on one of the, toward the younger end of our spectrum this year. How did you get involved with the water industry and what has been your trajectory so far in your career?
Yeah, so my interest in the water industry actually started in high school. I knew the sciences were my calling, and I took AP Environmental Science actually in high school. And with that class, my teacher brought us to the wastewater treatment plant in my local town. And the guy who gave us the tour was high up in management there, and he on top of being an incredible tour guide, really inspired me to get into the water business. Just talked about how secure his job is because everyone drinks water, and that really intrigued me. And so I got into it in high school, but in college I studied biology, and so I was always intrigued by pathogens in the water. And so after college, I actually stumbled upon Aquaclara International in my hometown, and they were kind of right up my alley. I studied Spanish too in college, and yeah, I've been working there ever since out of college. And the water industry is something I plan to be in, hopefully the rest of my life.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. I know that on your questionnaire you had mentioned too that you did some traveling between graduating and then starting your career. It sounded like. Could you talk a little bit about those travels? Did you learn anything along the way that you've taken with you to now?
Yeah, so traveling definitely opened my eyes. I think it does for most young college students, especially if you do it then. I grew up in the Midwest, and I grew up 2 miles away from Lake Michigan. And what I never really understood until I traveled is how scarce water can be. And I lived in southern Spain. I studied there for a semester, my last semester of college, after I'd already finished my biology degree. And Sevilla, where I was one of the driest places in Europe, let alone the world. And I learned about water issues real quick when my host mom made me turn the water off, and there was days where I couldn't use it, she said. And so just traveling kind of introduced me to the water issues we're facing and will continue to face throughout the rest of the time we're alive.
Yeah. Well, I know too that one of the things you said that your generation is going to be really important in addressing is those water scarcity issues. Could you talk about how how you think that transformation will occur and what role you hope to play in that transformation?
Yes, so I right now I have been working for Aquaclara International, and we are a nonprofit that filters water for populations that are the most vulnerable in the world. Our main population we deal with is people that own $2 or less. And so we started off building biosand filters and training people how to do that in countries. But now we're finding out in areas where there is just no water, people they travel a lot just to find water, and it's not good water. And so through my travels, which started in college, I've seen a lot of places that wells have dried up. Nicaragua, Honduras. There's a lot of places, even in the Americas, that have dealt with droughts and more frequently. And then it's the opposite with flooding, and then you just deal with other water issues that way too. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of problems that the younger generation will have to solve with climate change with water. So I look forward to being, on the front line of that, and inspiring people to do the same.
Yeah. Well, your hobbies to kind of tie into this whole water aspect. You know, water's not only for drinking; it's also for sport, recreation, bringing people together. You talked about how you enjoy skiing um, and surfing. Could you talk a little bit about your hobbies and how those kind of intersect with your interests professionally?
Yeah. So I grew up on the shores of Lake Michigan. Was lucky enough to have two of my best friends grew up on the lake, and so I've spent most of my life along the lake shore. And I became kind of an environmentalist at a young age, just because um, our slogan is "Pure Michigan," and I kind of want to keep it that way. I remember learning about invasive species real quick. Just these mussels that came from the ocean, and how much it just ruined the beach for us. So there's a lot of things we've done since the 70s that have helped the lakes. But yeah, I have learned how to surf in Nicaragua. That's been my main hobby, and now I can surf the lake. It's not as good or as easy, but we get big waves out here on Lake Michigan, believe it or not. But yeah, I enjoy water, and it's my hobby and it's my job. So I'm known
Well, yeah,
as the water guy in my family.
yeah. Well, you
Yeah.
had mentioned the Nicaragua project in your in our questionnaire,
Mhm.
and I got the impression from you that water to you is more than just an issue in the U.S. That you have a really kind of global perspective on that. Could you draw? Could you describe some of your experiences? You did a little bit about Spain. Could you talk a little bit about Nicaragua and kind of the experiences that you had there and why that was such a meaningful project for you?
Yeah, I I was there for 6 months working with a partner health clinic. They basically teach primary health, and then they were using our water filters. So they brought me to places that trucks couldn't even get to. You rode horses to villages, and they just collect water in rivers, and they were just filtering that. But those rivers would get so contaminated from the livestock, because the path that the water takes is the path that the cattle take. So they produce a lot of cattle. It's overgrazed jungle in Nicaragua, which was sad to see, but there's a lot of places that are changing that. But yeah, just Nicaragua was an eye opener, because then I'd go to the ocean where people would just dump their wastewater straight into the ocean. And that happens in Mexico too, and it just ruins the ecosystem and just
Hmm.
makes it disgusting. You can't enjoy the ocean when there's just raw sewage. So there's a lot of, and also a lot of electricity comes from the rivers in Nicaragua, which I learned about. I saw some of that. But even places like I've been to Paraguay, where almost all their water is salt that they have in their ground. And so I got a good tour of there's this German kind of town, I guess, in Paraguay, where they filter all the locals' water around, and it's desalinization. So I've seen a lot of different ways people get water, which is kind of cool, because here in Michigan, you just get it from the lake, and at least in my town. But yeah, definitely, it's inspired me. It lets me be able to tell the people in my town who don't take the water issue that we'll have to face so seriously. Right now, we have too much water. It's taking the houses away along the lake shore, actually. So we have a problem with too much water, but a lot of people in the world don't. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too. So I'm based in the Chicago area, and Joliet, which is just outside Chicago, is running into water scarcity issues because they don't have a direct connection to Lake Michigan, and their groundwater reservoirs are starting to
Exactly.
dry up. So
Mhm.
now all of a sudden they have to have this issue, and they're not that far from Lake Michigan. It's like an hour drive. So.
Yeah, it's incredible how there's water scarcity. You see it when they map it, all along Lake Michigan. It's like, how can that be so? Got
Mhm.
so much right here, but yeah, it's just infrastructure we don't have.
Yeah.
So
Well, getting back to your interest in the industry and how you came into it and getting a chance to tour a facility, I'm sure was really instrumental for you. What are some ways that you see that employers and organizations in the water industry can help cater to the next generation of workforce? We see this as being a really big issue, considering there's a lot of people retiring, and we need to replace some really intelligent people with young, intelligent people who can, carry the torch, so to speak.
yeah, so it is incredible the turnover that's happening and about to happen with engineers and a lot of people who have been in the industry. The building I work in is bioeconomy. It's Michigan State University, is where we have our lab. And there's a lot of guys that are retiring just these next couple months, and they're engineers that have been working in this plant for decades. And so it'll be interesting to see who comes in there. Really just informing people. A lot of people turn their faucet on here in this country and they don't know where the water comes from, how it is filtered. And it was quite revolutionary. Obviously, we have had Flint happen here in Michigan, and most people, it was kind of Pandora's box for realizing, oh, our water might not be safe. But a lot of people are becoming aware of these issues. The internet has helped, and I think the younger generation is exciting because a lot of them want to help causes like this,
Mhm.
especially here at Aquaclara, where a lot of people don't get clean water and throughout the world. And just telling people, don't take it for granted, and filter your water.
Yeah.
Check your water too. See if it's, there's easy ways to check for arsenic. A lot of contaminants you can't taste or smell.
Hmm.
Hopefully, it gets out with whatever plant you have, but who knows the piping you have in your house or in your city. So just making the younger generation be aware and
Hmm.
see the problems that they'll face and their fellow, you know, I think people travel a lot more these days. And so hopefully the younger generation will see the world like I did and get out of their comfort zone to fix some of these water issues that we'll
Hmm.
definitely see in the future.
Yeah, awareness definitely seems like one of the big ones. And like you said, this is an industry of purpose. And if you can really nail that down with the younger generations, they can, I imagine, would get very much so behind joining
Mhm.
it. So,
Yeah, and most people don't know that, flushing a toilet, how much water it takes, and yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, so definitely.
yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jay. I really appreciate you taking the time today. And it's great to talk to you a little bit more and get to know you a little more. And hopefully, further down the line, when the it allows, we can see you at an event or something like that too. So,
Yeah, for sure. I look forward to that.
yeah.
Thank you very much.